Let's start. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, to begin, I honor World Philosophy Day, which UNESCO has proposed as an opportunity to reflect and engage in dialogue about humanity's fundamental questions. This day reminds us that philosophy is not merely an academic field, but a way of life, a way that invites us to think, analyze, seek truth, and free ourselves from all forms of slavery and captivity. In today's world, where rapid changes and superficial thinking are increasingly prevalent, philosophy has become even more significant. Philosophy helps us resist superficiality and instead embrace deeper thinking. Karl Popper once said, philosophy is the love of knowledge, and knowledge is the beginning of freedom. Yet, it is undeniable that knowledge and freedom are only achieved through critical thinking and the willingness to be challenged, concepts that lie at the heart of Popper's philosophy of science. Today, alongside celebrating philosophy, we have a duty to think about its challenges, flaws, and at the same time its unparalleled achievements. Thus, let us develop into Karl Popper thoughts, his unique approach to truth, and his method to coming closer to it. First of all, I would like to talk about meaning of truth. Philosophy has always begun with the question of truth. From Socrates, who asked people, "What's truth?" to modern philosophers like Popper, who taught us that truth is only achieved through trial and error. Philosophy has played a vital role in illuminating the human path and comforting individuals with truth. For Popper, truth is not something easily attained or something that can be encapsulated in fixed and absolute forms. He sees truth as something that must be continuously tested, examined, and revisited over time. In essence, it seems that Popper does not fundamentally disagree with finding truth at correspondence with reality. He does not deny the existence of absolute reality in the world, but offers a fresh interpretation of how truth can correspond with reality. His approach aligns with the capacities of human understanding and to obstacles that continually challenge it. Human seeks truth in life, and this quest gives them peace of mind. However, Popper believed that humans never achieved absolute truth. Instead, they are always in the process of approaching it. He viewed science not as a fixed and definitive process, but as a method for coming closer to the truth. This approach, as observed in the natural sciences, results from continuous experimentation and revision, and in philosophy, humanities, and social sciences, it stems from constant criticism and re-evaluation. The belief that humans can come closer to truth is far better than denying the existence of truth altogether or doubting the possibility of understanding it. While Popper believed in the approach to truth, he did not speak of fully attaining it. In his view, we can never reach final and absolute truth. Even with scientific advancements, we only arrive at new tests and more reliable hypotheses, not ultimate truth. Nonetheless, we should not underestimate the value of approaching truth. Popper's methodology reassures us that the path we be taking is largely correct, as it has shown resilience against falsification and criticism. Falsification and criticism. In summary, Karl Popper emphasized the importance of approaching truth while critiquing dogmatic thinking. He believed that truth is not a fixed destination but a dynamic process in which theories are continually revived, criticized, and refined. Science and philosophy, rather than searching for absolute truth, should focus on constant improvement and correction. Science and philosophy have always served as tools for the pursuit of truth. Philosophy is not only a collection of theories and perspectives, but also a method of thinking and questioning. This philosophical approach helps us resist superficial appearances and search for truth in the depth of issues. On the other hand, science by uncovering the laws of nature and addressing practical human needs can guide philosophy with realism. One of the key concepts Karl Popper introduced to the philosophy of science is the idea of falsifiability as a criterion for distinguishing science from pseudoscience. Popper, one of the most important philosophers of the 20th century, presented falsifiability as a measure of scientific validity. According to this idea, for a theory to be scientifically valid, it must be testable and capable for being disproved if incorrect. In other words, theories must be open to testing and revision to contribute to scientific progress and approach to truth. With this perspective, Popper freed science from mere confirmatory thinking. He argued that the goal of science is not the definitive confirmation of theories, but the ongoing search to disprove them. This revolutionary perspective transformed scientific methodology and provided clearer criteria for evaluating theories. Popper emphasized that the more bold and precise scientific theories are, the more they are exposed to falsification, thereby increasing their accuracy and predictive power. In this framework, Popper's epistemology shifted the focus from seeking final truth to seeking better theories to draw continual correction. Science progresses through criticism and new experiments, and this progress must continue to achieve deeper and better understanding of reality. Popper not only emphasized falsifiability but also introduced criticism as a fundamental principle of scientific thinking. In his view, no theory should be accepted as absolute truth. This perspective also applies to social and human sciences, as well as political systems and governance, where ideas and theories must always be open to scrutiny and revisions to enable improvement and prevent totalitarianism. Let me also mention in parentheses that from this perspective, even coming closer to the truth is not equivalent to the agreement of rational individuals. In Popper's view, such agreement alone has no epistemological validity. The core of this perspective suggests that approaching the truth means being more open to criticism and having greater ability to withstand fundamental challenges. While falsifiability is highly useful in natural science, it faces limitation in humanities which deal with cultural and historical complexities. In the humanities, concepts are often more abstract and less testable, making criticism a more appropriate criterion than falsifiability. However, it seems difficult to draw a precise distinction between falsifiability and criticism. At the present time, I want to talk about Popper's understanding of the relationship between philosophy and science. One, science as a dynamic and falsifiable process. Popper viewed science as a dynamic process always subject to testing and correction rather than a collection of definitive facts. 2. Criticism and the evaluation of science. Philosophy plays a critical role in revising and reviewing science. According to Popper, science grows through constructive criticism. Criticism, of course, requires that the critic analyze the theory within its own logical and conceptual framework. Without a precise understanding, it is impossible to offer valid and meaningful criticism. In simpler terms, for scientific theory to be properly tested, its concepts and claims must be clearly and accurately understood. According to Popper, criticism is only valid when it helps test the theory and reveals its real weaknesses. This perspective is rooted in the principles of analytic philosophy, as Popper himself was an analytic philosopher. Analytic philosophy consistently emphasizes conceptual clarity, linguistic precision, and logical reasoning, because without exaggeration, more than 50% of criticisms of theories in the world of science are made without a clear and proper understanding of the theory. 3. Pursuing truth through gradual refinement. For Popper, science constantly seeks truth, through this truth is never final. Philosophy helps by offering methods like criticism and revision to refine scientific theories. 4. Critique and self-criticism in science. Philosophy allows science to evaluate itself from different perspectives, ensuring progress toward better and more valid theories. In conclusion, the relationship between philosophy and science in Popper's approach, particularly through the frameworks of falsifiability and criticism, aims for an endless and involving search for truth. Philosophy supports science in its journey of continuous refinement and advancement. Despite the remarkable contribution of Popper's falsifiability theory to science and philosophy, it has faced several criticisms. This critique seems to have room for further exploration. Here are some of them. 1. Lack of alignment with the history of science. Critics like Thomas Kuhn argue that scientific progress often occurs through revolutionary changes or paradigm shift rather than merely through falsification of theories. However, this critique seems less compelling because, firstly, Kuhn's view of the history of science appears dogmatic. Who can claim that all of the history of science has strictly followed Kuhn's theory of scientific revolution? Secondly, falsifiability inherently accommodates revolutionary shifts. In other words, a high degree of falsification of fundamental theories can itself lead to paradigm shifts. 2. Ambiguity in the criteria of falsifiability. Precisely defining the criteria for falsifiability can be challenging, and some theories might evade falsification through various adjustments. This criticism seems somewhat valid, and researchers would work further on enhancing the precision and inclusiveness of these criteria. 3. Limitation of social and human sciences. This approach may have limited applicability in the humanities, which deal with cultural and social complexities. However, this critique is not particularly convincing, especially when one understands Popper's perspective on social and human sciences. 4. Criticism of this negative focus on hypothesis rejection. Popper placed significant emphasis on rejection hypothesis. However, some critics argue that the gradual confirmation of hypotheses is also an essential part of science. This point of valid put in Popper's view, confirmation of hypotheses is meaningful only in the context of their resistance to refutation. A hypothesis that shows resilience against falsification may, as long as this resilience persists, be considered tentatively confirmed. 5. Criticism of extreme relativism. The criticism that Popper's epistemology leads to an extreme relativism that makes everything is philosophy and science unstable is a superficial and mistaken interpretation. On the contrary, Popper brought relativism to the realistic and useful point. Unlike radical views of relativism, Popper's approach does not human scientific progress or its productivity. So, Popper contribution of epistemology. This is very important part of my speech. Popper's ideas have had significant impact on various fields of philosophy and science. Some of his most important contributions include: 1. Knowledge as a dynamic process. Popper pursued knowledge not as a final product but as a dynamic and ever changing process. 2. Falsifiability as a criterion of science. By introducing falsifiability as the criterion for distinguishing science from non science, Popper directed science toward precision and continuous testing. 3. Emphasis on criticism and openness. Criticism holds a central position in Popper's through fostering openness in the philosophy of social and human sciences. 4. Enhancing the precision of scientific theories. Popper encouraged scientists to process clear and more precise theories by introducing the criterion of falsifiability. This prevented ambiguity and unscientific ideas from spreading within knowledge. 5. Strengthening the methodology for evaluating theories. Popper provided a framework to help researchers systematically test and evaluate theories, thus enhancing the potential for scientific progress. 6. Recognizing the fallibility of science and preventing dogmatism. Popper emphasized the fallibility of human knowledge, promoting humanity in science and philosophy. His focus on continuous criticism helped prevent science from becoming dogmatic or mythological, aligning with the fundamental ideas of modernism. If applied, this approach ensures the openness and advancement of science. 7. Revisiting relativism and combating absolutism. One of Popper's key contributions was challenging the illusions of absolute certainty. He argued that no theory could claim ultimate certainty and that all human knowledge is, in essence, relative. However, power relativism differs from other forms of relativism because it neither undermines the foundation of science nor halts its pursuit of knowledge. 8. Highlighting the role of hypotheses in science. Popper emphasized the importance of bold hypothesis making, showing that scientific progress depends on testing innovative hypotheses and striving to refute them. 9. Promoting intellectual openness and dialogue. Popper advocated for a culture of criticism and dialogue as prerequisites for the advancement of knowledge and philosophy. This requires mutual respect, tolerance, and openness to critique. In political philosophy, Popper was one of the strongest critics of authoritarianism and autocratic regimes. In works such as The Open Society and Its Enemies, he criticized political and social philosophies that emphasize absolute power and unilateral decision making. For Popper, authoritarianism is inherently incompatible with criticism and stems from absolutist thinking. In contrast to authoritarianism, Popper defended the concept of the open society. He believed that in an open society, everyone should have the freedom to critique, and even governments should be subject to constant oversight, and criticism. According to Popper, intellectual and political freedom is essential because only under such condition can a society identify its errors and move toward improvement. Popper particularly stressed the importance of being open to criticism. He argued that no theory or social system should be accepted as absolute and beyond question. Against authoritarian perspective, he campaigned the criterion of open spaces for debate and critique, believing that only under such conditions can individuals and societies enjoy true freedoms. In this regard, it is natural that applying double standard to freedom of criticism, according to Popper's view, is a clear example of tyranny. Governments are not allowed to define forbidden topics for criticism or pressure critics openly or secretly for discussing these topics. This is something that some European governments are doing today, especially when it comes to criticizing the widespread crimes of Israel against humanity in Palestine. Popper criticized political philosophies like Marxism and fascism, which implicitly assume that a single ideology or political theory can dominate all aspects of society. He viewed Marxism as a dogmatic and authoritarian philosophy that leaves no room for critique or change. Popper strongly opposed such views, emphasizing that all philosophical and political systems must be open to criticism and revision. Thank you for your attention. Bye.